Welcome to the Growlers and Gremlins podcast, an alcoholic adventure in cryptids, paranormal, and the occult. Coming to you weekly from the heartland of America.
Welcome to Growlers and Gremlins. I'm your favorite host and theorist, John. With me, I have...
Jason, the analyst.
I'm Brian, returning once again.
And Plan B.
Jesse is back once again. We had another guest fall through, so we called Plan B Jesse. So this month, Brewery of the Month is going to be my favorite brewery of all time, which is Brewlink Brewing in Plainfield, Indiana. So the beer of the week this week is Ebony Oatmeal Stout from Brewlink Brewing. Let's crack this open. That made a gross,
it's in a growler.
It made a gross sound in the mic. It was like a little like...
Oh, did they add a sticker to our growler?
Yeah, we can peel it off.
Yeah. Okay.
They didn't cover our other sticker.
Yeah.
We're still professional.
Oh, God, this is...
I can't believe you poured it like that.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It's in a growler.
You poured it over your phone.
I don't care.
Dude,
My
that's
phone's
going to
waterproof.
fizz.
That's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
So take the growler from him.
No, it's not.
It's just going to be me, isn't it? Everybody's going to pour it fine.
I told you it wouldn't.
Professional.
I am a professional. I knew exactly where to fill that.
That is a thick head.
That is
Yeah,
a thick head.
It's a fat ass.
All right, let's get everybody poured.
Better.
Oh, yeah. Looks like motor oil.
It does.
It really does.
So excited.
It's like the darkest of espressos.
Mm-hmm.
Like a true Guinness. Even though it's not. And I'm
Even
not.
though it's much better.
Doesn't head up much, like, at all. I mean, you poured it
Depends on how you pour.
I mean, you poured it like a fucking rock ape.
Yeah.
But...
And it worked out perfectly. That's why I have a nice head.
And I poured it like an English gentleman. That's why
no
mine
head.
No head at all.
matches my lifestyle.
Yeah, no head.
I'll make
No
you
head
laugh.
for Brian.
Now, Jesse, when you get done with it, just really slam it on the table so that just right up through the ground.
Okay, so
That's just sweet and delicious.
I love this.
Isn't that great?
So
I'm telling you, you're going to love.
immediate coffee notes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to love every one of these tonight. Chocolate, for
Oh,
sure.
All right, let's give this
Yeah,
a taste.
there's chocolate there.
Did you bring the jelly donut one?
I did. We'll get there in
Put the cap back
4
on.
weeks.
I can't trust this. Since nothing overflowed, I don't have to have this, so I'll keep
Yeah.
it on standby.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, we gave Brian his own towel, expecting him to spill.
I have never spilled a beer here.
Well, I was expecting a lot worse, but it's not bad. It's definitely a treat.
It's the bottles for me. I just end up hooking them right off the table. Cans,
Yeah,
I'm good.
yeah.
glasses, I'm good. But you give me a bottle,
Oh,
and I end
man.
up flinging it off.
I'm going to have
the
to go
table.
back and get more of this. This is great.
It is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. That was a good trip over there. A lot of free samples. And
And what was the brewery again?
Brewlink Brewing in Plainfield, Indiana.
There's a golf course next to it.
Yeah, they're actually on a golf course. They're like the official brew pub of the golf course. They worked out some kind of deal, and
That
it's
explains
really
the name.
nice. They started serving food, and they got some great food. I
Yeah.
had these things called kegger tots that are tater tots, but like they look like the size of like a chode, you know, like it's like a little barrel. Like they're like. So like
John
normal
measures
tater
things
tot,
in penises.
normal tater tot is like an inch long by like maybe a half inch in diameter.
By regulation,
These
yes.
are like an inch in diameter and like 3 inches long. Like they're big tots and they're filled with bacon and cheese.
Hmm.
They're super good. All right, so
All right,
be-
John. What'd you bring us today?
this is going to be a bit of a different series of episodes. Probably a different
I don't know that.
different tone than usual. I'm going to say this now before I've had drinks, but I'm going to try to stay on topic for the next 4 episodes on these serious topics and have serious discussion because I like these topics. I'm really interested in them. And I just feel like we got to keep the right tone going here. This is
You're going to
what
ruin all our marketing.
what Jason has always dreamed of is going to happen in the next 4 weeks. We'll get creepy episodes.
All our marketing is based on the fact that you can't talk about anything but Dollar Hut and Jamaican beef patties.
See, there lies the confusion. Is I talked about Dollar Hut once, but the Jamaican beef patties have nothing to do with Dollar Hut.
True, but we all get to hear about your Jamaican beef patty obsession.
And I feed them to you as well. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about this week is pretty broad, but I just want to kind of walk you guys through the process I went through trying to turn this into a topic. Because the topic is evil, which is incredibly broad, has a lot of different definitions. So I tried to, based on what I already knew, based on my own experiences and the stuff I was reading while researching for this, I was trying to come up with my own sort of idea of what evil is. And so we'll start here with just the general definition. Evil is generally seen as taking multiple possible forms, such as the form of personal moral evil, commonly associated with the word, or impersonal natural evil, as in the case of natural disasters or illnesses, and in religious thought, the form of the demonic or supernatural/eternal.
And in yet another class of thought, ex-wives.
Yes, but, well, that falls under personal moral evil and demonic and supernatural. But I thought that was interesting.
Depends on the ex-wife.
I thought that was interesting right from the start because I hadn't come across much in the past about natural evil, like the idea that natural disasters and like illnesses were a form of evil, like almost as if evil is a force that is kind of rebalancing things. You know, things are going too well, we gotta have some kind of disaster or something, you know?
You mean like a plague?
Yeah, like
or
a plague or a
pandemic?
hurricane or anything. But so then another opinion I ran into was Carl Jung, the psychologist, if you guys are familiar with him.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
He was like a colleague of Freud. He's a bit
Freud.
younger, though. I think he's younger than Freud. But anyway, in his book, Answer to Job and elsewhere, depicted evil as the dark side of God. He said, people tend to believe evil is something external to them because they project their shadow onto others. Jung interpreted the story of Jesus as an account of God facing his own shadow. So, the way he sees it was similar to some of the Buddhist ideas of what evil is that I found, that basically it's just a balance within ourselves. We have both good and evil, and we have to face that. And,
A yin to our yang.
yeah. And basically try to overcome that. And basically the idea was that he says that like the story of God and Jesus was God coming to terms with the dark side of himself. And, you know, basically changing things, because I mean there's I don't know how familiar with this you guys are, but there's like the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
The Old Testament will turn you into a pillar of salt.
The God of the Old Testament was very wrathful, and
Yeah,
the
I'm
New
just gonna
Testament was a
wipe
very
this
loving, forgiving
land
God.
from the world
Yeah.
with a shake of my fist and a hellfire.
So then another interesting one was Philip Zimbardo suggested that people may act in evil ways as a result of a collective identity. His hypothesis was based on his previous experience from the Stanford prison experiment, and was published in his book, The Lucifer Effect, Understanding How Good People Turn Evil. So,
Now, that prison experiment, that is something I have, like, learned a little bit about,
Mhm.
and that is absolutely crazy.
yeah.
And that's just an example of absolute power corrupts absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
where, you know, half of the participants were assigned to be guards, and the other half were assigned to be prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that really was different was the uniforms, basically.
I was gonna say, wasn't it
And
everybody was a volunteer or something?
everyone was a volunteer.
Yeah.
Nobody had any training.
Mm.
And the people that had to play guards performed some truly heinous
Mhm.
acts on the prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
And these were normal people who just, because they were put in this position of power over another person, chose to
Chose to
be
be a
evil.
dick.
So that's going to come back in two ways. The fact that through collective identity, they all sort of lived out this evil that they were perceived as, because I believe it was Nietzsche who said that if a man is truly born free, he will have no concept of evil. The concept of evil is driven from seeing someone else as your oppressor, someone stronger than you, and you are weaker than them, and so therefore they're evil because they oppress you. So, in the Stanford experiment, they were evil to the prisoners, like from the prisoners' perspective, they are the guards, they're in charge of us, they're evil, And then they ended up acting that out because of that collective identity that they were evil.
Yeah, there's another study I remember where, excuse me, there's another study where one person was to be a test giver and another person was the person being tested. And every time the person that was being tested got an answer wrong, the person administering the test was to give them an electric shock.
Mm-hmm.
And they were to increase the amount of voltage each time, and they would hear the person screaming in agony on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And, when asked while they were leaving the study why, because the person on the other side wasn't actually hooked to electricity, it was all faked. They weren't actually injuring somebody, but they were asking these test givers, why did you continue to, like, even if after you were told this would be a lethal amount of electricity, did you continue to do it? And it's like, well, the person shouldn't have been stupid. Like, because they were put in this position of authority over someone else, what they, normally I would not electrocute someone to the point of death. They were willing to do so because that was their job.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of bringing together the whole thing when I lead you guys into my idea here. But one of the things I came across a lot, and is in a lot of belief systems and in a lot of forms of philosophy, people believe that evil is a result of free will. That given freedom and free will, people will tend towards evil. So I got to jump a little out of order here in my notes real quick. But so one of the other things was that Christian Science, which is a controversial field, to say the least.
I was going to say an oxymoron, but okay.
Basically, they're just trying to take theology and create an applied philosophical science out of it. Not like Christian Science of like creationism. This is more of a philosophical science. Christian Science believes that evil arises from a misunderstanding of the goodness of nature, which is understood as being inherently perfect if viewed from the correct spiritual perspective. Misunderstanding God's reality leads to incorrect choices, which are termed evil. This has led to the rejection of any separate power being the source of evil, or of God as being the source of evil. Instead, the appearance of evil is the result of a mistaken concept of good. Christian scientists argue that even the most evil person does not pursue evil for its own sake, but from the mistaken viewpoint that he or she will achieve some good thereby. So they believe
no one is inherently evil.
Yeah, nothing is inherently
evil.
No one tries to be evil. All evil is sort of unintentional in an attempt to do right. Like the old saying, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. That no one is intentionally evil.
So, what good was Bernie Madoff attempting to create in the world?
Money for himself.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's the thing. That's where it runs into the problem of, well, yes, they're trying to do some good, but generally it's only for themselves. So if it's a selfish good, then it's evil. But then again, that's a misunderstanding of goodness. So they kind of created a little puzzle there that actually kind of works. So then where things got more interesting for me was the Baha'i faith asserts that evil is non-existent and that it is a concept reflecting lack of good, just as cold is the state of no heat and darkness is the state of no light. Forgetfulness, the lacking of memory, ignorance, the lacking of knowledge. All of these states are of lacking and have no real existence. So they believe evil just doesn't exist. Things are either good or less good. Something having no good would be considered evil, but it's not like a force of evil, it's just a lack of good.
I don't know, a lack of good does not mean you're, kicking puppies and stuff. Like, I think there's
there's a lack of good understanding of how to treat a puppy. Technically.
I almost think, kind of like D&D alignments. You have good, you have neutral, and you have evil.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's you lose good until you get to neutral, and then you continue back down into evil.
Yep.
Past neutral.
Now, see, this is, looking at all these different things, I came to a conclusion that felt right to me because they all just felt a little lacking in that it removes the idea of personal experience that I don't know if any of you guys have ever just felt that something was evil? Been in a place or around a person and you just had that gut feeling, you know, that like something is off, something is evil. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's like an instinct that we have.
When you just know that someone just does not have good intentions towards anything.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's
like
just
when you see
sometimes
the,
in your life you'll see or meet a person and you will just have a horrible pit in your stomach. You just know that there is nothing good there. They're just evil.
I guess you should meet more bricklayers.
Yeah. Okay. But so I was thinking about that.
I think that sense in me is broken, as we can all attest to.
Probably. But
I mean,
where I'm going with that is that, like, combined with the prison experiments, how through collective identity they all ended up, you know, acting out this part of evil. Well, evil being a lack of good, the way I see it is it's not necessarily a lack of it. Like, darkness is a lack of light. It's more like a black hole. So, like, a black hole is black because it is lacking light, but it's because it's, like, devouring light. It cannot escape it. You know what I mean? Light cannot escape a black hole. That's why it's black. I know you're frustrated by this very simplistic definition of a black hole, but that's not the point. The point is that, to me, if you think about it, evil is like a black hole. It devours good. Good cannot escape it easily. And it has a pull. So
in what you're proposing, evil is a force that destroys good.
Yes. And
destroys, corrupts.
When it just kind of tends to, when someone starts to lean into it, they lose a little good through like an action. They tend to go further and further. It's not like
because
you do a bad thing and then the next day it's just over. You tend to go further and you tend to go down rabbit holes. And like, I think about this because like almost every winter I listen to a whole bunch of black metal and like stay up really late at night, start reading about really dark stuff, and it's like it's a really negative effect on you, because it's like the more you start looking into, you know, dark things and evil things, it's almost like it has a pull to like keep you there. Say like a depression.
So the pull to darkness, or the pull to, I guess, evil, is a lot stronger than the pull to good. It takes effort. It takes a lot more effort to be good.
Well, and that's the thing. And that's why, like, you know, all these different cultures that have, like, demons and evil spirits that are driving people to do evil, possessing them, you know, things like that. It's like, well, everyone feels this. Everyone feels this sense of evil, something that wants you to do evil, that wants evil things to happen. So, like, what if it's not just an absence of good, but something actively trying to destroy good?
I think it's more
like
of
a force of the universe that we can't measure yet.
Well, like when you're discovering bad actions as a child, and it's like, let's say, like in my case,
you learn the 5-knuckle shuffle.
No, it was I started out. I would steal candy,
playing a little 5-on-1.
I don't know what this is, but no, it was
5-on-1 is masturbation, Brian.
Oh, okay, no.
As honest, you should know that already.
I know, but no, it's like when you're a kid, it's like, what's the first like petty thing you do out of selfishness? It's like you're the little whatever you are, you're standing in the grocery line and you just pluck a little candy bar, like stick it in your sweatshirt, and you walk out, and then you pull it out to eat it, and your parents see, and it's like, oh, well, you're supposed to stop that. Well, you know me. That didn't quite take. I didn't do it in front of my parents, but I do it now all the time because there's no reason to not to. I've never been caught. No one cares. So I find it is easier just to, okay, yeah, it was a candy bar this day. It was a candy bar that. It was a chicken sandwich.
Well, see, that's a bad habit, and you're a klepto. Yeah, but like I'm not talking about like little misdeeds here and there, like lies. I'm talking about like genuine evil.
Yeah, let me get to it.
Okay,
like no one starts at 10.
Yeah,
they have to get to 10. Like a psychopath when they're coming up through childhood who becomes a murderer. That kid doesn't start by murdering 10 people. It's a.
You want to have Z top off?
Yeah,
I think we got enough for everybody to have like a little half beer left.
Sure, but yeah, the kid won't start at a person. It'll start at, oh, I caught this small animal or a bug, and they just start ripping them apart and doing that. Then it progressively gets worse, and if nobody catches it, then that's when it starts to escalate. Uh-oh, the neighbor's dog is missing. Uh-oh, that kid got attacked in the woods or at the playground. and he's too scared to go tell anybody because of what may become his repercussion because it's a kid. Then, that kid's going into high school or graduated, and he's out in the world now and got into a bar fight, really bloodied somebody up to the point of, like, unconsciousness, going to the hospital, that kind of shit. It's like,
I don't know. Like, when I think back, my first act that I would describe as truly evil was knocking my sister's 2 front teeth out.
Well, I dislocated
pushing her out of a tree. Didn't you do that?
Okay. I didn't actually push her out.
Did you do it with malicious intent, though?
Or
were you just playing?
I did because I thought it'd be fucking hilarious.
What made you do it?
I convinced her that if she jumped out of the treehouse while holding a blanket, she would float to the ground. And instead, she just smacked her face on the ground.
And knocked her teeth out?
Yeah. No.
Or was this another... What?
Well, the teeth was... my father gave me some scrap wood. I built a little catapult out of it. I'm like, hey, look at this. She put her face right in front of it. I pounded it with my fist and knocked her 2 front teeth out.
But did you know that it was going to hit her?
I wasn't stupid, so I know it was a possibility.
But you were like, let's see how this goes.
Yeah, basically.
So you were a treacherous little wretch, is what you're saying.
It's also just being a sibling. I mean...
being a big brother. Yeah.
Do you feel that maybe like some people tend towards evil actions more than others, just by nature?
Yeah.
By like what? Just base nature?
Or do you think it just comes from nurture? Like
nature versus nurture.
In a
is that what you're going?
but not in sort of like the criminal sense. I think a lot of the criminal stuff is nature. Because I think that there's certain personality traits that you do inherit that make you tend towards certain things.
Yeah, there are.
But
I mean, I've read
also
have all kinds of examples where there's a book I own called The Anatomy of Violence, and it's a neurobiologist who goes through and does all these studies in like South America, Asia, with all these prison inmates and all these different samplings, and he goes through and like some of the stories are, it was a serial killer in California in like the late 60s or something. Dude was like upstanding citizen all the time, perfectly good, just some gay guy who lived in California who would go and drug and strangle men.
Yeah.
And that was that. And he never got caught.
And see, that's one of the strange things.
There was another study where it was a 37-year-old Latina guy who
Latino,
what the fuck ever.
Well, if he's a man, it would be Latino.
Sorry, I didn't
a man would not be Latina.
Latino guy, whatever.
Come on, know your Spanish.
This dude, like he had issues all his life. Like going through school, he was violent. He had it, and it finally cultivated. He murdered an old man to get a Social Security check, and he did the deed. It was bloody. It wasn't pretty at all. Dude, still completely coated in blood, goes to the bank with blood on his hands and on the check and tries to get the cash for it.
Yeah.
Not realizing that this was wrong.
And
so I'm convinced there's a lot to do with biology when it comes to evil acts.
You mean psychology?
No, your nature versus nurture thing. I think there's a lot more in the nature part than people give a lot of credit for. I think it's very heavily balanced on the nurture, but I think there's a lot in the nature.
This is one of the things that like made me like, for sure I want to talk about this because I heard this news story just recently. And it won't matter that this, by the time this episode comes out, will have happened 4 weeks ago or so. But, the whole idea of evil, and then like there's the views of like being possessed by something, and like, it's a simple way to explain unexplainable actions from people.
The voices told me to.
Like there are certain things that just they don't make any sense, and so even with like mental illness and things, it's just pretty unexplainable. And just recently in California, in a nursing home, they had COVID patients in the nursing home, and there was an 82-year-old man who had COVID sharing a room with a 37-year-old man. The old man started to pray. The 37-year-old man got up and beat him to death with an oxygen tank.
The fuck?
Yeah. This just happened in California. And I was like, whoa, like what? I mean, because like you've seen the movies, if someone's like possessed by a demon, Christian symbols or prayer really rile them up. They'd been roommates in this room, and then this dude starts to pray, so he beats an 82-year-old man to death with an oxygen tank?
Well, do we know the full context? Maybe this was the 37-year-old man was frustrated that all this old man planned to do for his COVID was to pray it away.
He was in a nursing home receiving care.
Well,
even then, that is still not an explainable action. If like, oh, he needs to get more medication, I should kill him with an oxygen tank. No, like, that's horrible, and it's just dark and evil and unexplainable.
Jesus.
What if we explained good in a different way?
Not evil.
What if we visualize good as a flame?
Okay.
And it requires a constant fuel to
light.
This little light. No.
This little light of mine.
But it requires a constant fuel, right?
Okay.
And what if, like, it is half nurture versus nature, that people are just naturally born with a certain amount of fuel for this flame?
Mm-hmm.
That they can, maybe they are a normal person for first third of their life, but they burn through that allotment of fuel they started with, and then they are capable of evil acts at that point.
Are you saying that they burned up their soul being a good person?
I don't think that we have like a goodness limit that we can burn through in a lifetime. I do think though that I think that we tend towards evil as humans, and that you do actually have to actively make efforts to be good and not to be
evil. What is good?
Really depends.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's why it's like,
that's the thing. I mean,
Hitler thought he was doing great things for Germany.
Well, and that falls in the Christian Science thing of, many people do evil without intending to do evil with the, they think they're doing good, but clearly Hitler's evil.
Well,
you know what I mean? He's he's the staple. He's the standard example of what's evil?
I'm not making an argument that maybe he was a good guy, but no. It's just like,
I mean,
I guess I don't know, man. You're pretty blonde.
That Chinese guy was pretty evil.
I'm not tall enough to be Aryan.
What was his name?
I'm too fat too.
Do what, Brian?
What was that Chinese guy's name?
Which Chinese guy? Mao?
Yeah, Mao.
Yeah.
Killed 120 million?
Yeah.
In the first 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Stalin killed 60 million?
Yeah, but he was just straight evil because he ordered the executions of a lot of those people.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard for me to look at evil philosophically when I feel like I've felt it. You know what I mean? Because all of these are a simple explanation. They're like, oh, it's just something that's not good. But I really fall more into the lines of there is a supernatural evil. There is some negative force out there.
Like bad luck, kind of?
Well, no. Because
I would say bad luck is real.
Like a taunt or attempt, like to... almost like a chaos god. Like something that wants destruction, that wants pain. And
Corn?
It like needs to be fed. And
blood for the blood god?
Because it's just there's some people, some events, certain things you just can't explain simply.
Well, I mean, I told you that I have my little stints. Did I tell you about? No, I don't think I kept that one to myself.
Well, then bring it out to the internet right now.
Yeah, I mean, people think about this every now and then.
Are you about to like what is the word I'm looking for?
Incriminate myself?
Yeah, are you about to incriminate yourself here?
It was just a thought. But back a couple months ago,
thoughts can be crimes too.
After
definitely nowadays,
I was passing in front of an elementary school, and it was into the day. Like I'm driving home from work.
You're still allowed near those?
Shut up. But I was passing by it, and I'm coming up to this intersection where there's two crosswalks, and like they stopped. All these kids are going, and for a second, like I'm 80 yards back. I'm not quite on the brakes yet, hard, but I just thought, man, I could really just hit the gas pedal, just take out like 10 of these kids right now.
Now, see, I don't necessarily think that's evil. I think that you have psychological problems, Brian.
Probably. But no, it was a thought for a second, like a real thought where my foot started to press and I went, no, what the fuck is wrong with me?
Here's what separates things is that, like, okay, so Brian, I think he's got a little bit of psychological issues, but I don't think he's evil because I know that Brian has thoughts all the time that are horrible, horrible thoughts, but I know that he would never act on any of those thoughts. Brian is not an evil person who would do evil things. He has the thoughts. And I believe everyone has horrible, evil thoughts, and that's part of this force of supernatural evil that is trying to pull people to evil.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, but it's just like that one was the first one where I actually had to like pull myself back and go, what the fuck is wrong with me right now?
I think
because I was not slowing down coming up to this intersection.
I think what has given me a little perspective on the idea of this is that growing up religious, I don't know that it happens to everyone this way, but you tend to have no fear of evil because you feel
the Lord
that
is my shepherd.
yeah,
and I shall
so
fear no
you
evil.
grow up feeling that like, well, nothing can hurt you. So as a result, you're really interested. So you start really digging into that stuff, and then it like it has an effect on you. You know, like there's something to it because it's like the more you look into it, the darker everything gets, and like you get depressed and
you can start live leak diving.
Yeah,
execution videos from the bush or
everything we talk
South
about
America.
over the next few episodes is just gonna kind of tie together in a dark pit of misery.
Well, they're not all
like
evil. I mean, my topic is pretty. It's out there, but it has its goods and its bads.
Yeah, but
well, like know. So when you talk about like evil and people becoming evil, like you think about cases of infanticide. There we go. Where they were a good parent by all means, or by all measurable means from the outside, and then one day just
dissect a child.
Yeah, so
I think that's about perspective. You know what I mean?
Or is it is this your like
hindsight's 20/20
evil, or
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like I feel like sometimes somebody can, like a lot of serial killers have seemed like, oh, they were a totally normal person and then they did this. But then we have history and we can look back at their whole life and just see it as one picture. Like Jeffrey Dahmer is the classic example of, he seemed like a pretty normal guy. He had friends, he had a social life, and then all of that, or Ted Bundy. But Jeffrey Dahmer is the classic one that at the time it was shocking. But then you go back and you look at his life and all of the things he was doing, all these early signs back then, it's like, of course no one saw it then. But hindsight's 20/20, and we see, oh yeah, he was nuts.
Yeah, you're looking at it with the lens of this is the final product. This is what it made. Now we can look at it with, hey, this is what he became. Let's see. Oh, there's all the
it's
signs.
hard to understand someone when you have a present picture of them and like you know them. So you always assume the best about the people you know. But when you look at someone objectively, you can just be like, that's a bad person. You know, it's makes me knowing somebody. Like I could know someone that's everyone else thinks is a horrible person, and I'll be like, no, I think they're pretty great. You know, because it's just you have this tendency to believe the best about people.
Makes me want to watch Mindhunters again.
That was a great show.
Great show, but it totally delves into exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you look a little bit like Ed Kemper.
Is that the big guy?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sexy man.
The glasses and like, I don't know, you just look a little bit like Ed Kemper.
Oh. I'm just thinking. I just thought of something. I was watching football earlier.
Brian looks like John Wayne Gacy.
Thank you.
No, Jason doesn't.
No, what we discussed, we had this New Year's party last month where we discussed Brian looks like Danzig.
Brian does look like Glenn Danzig.
I still don't know who Glenn Danzig is.
Just a little bit.
Like Danzig if he was 3 foot taller.
Yeah.
I gotta look. I have no idea what this guy looks like still.
So let's just use the rest of this episode to figure out celebrity lookalikes.
No, I'm getting to my point that I was having earlier.
Although I'm not recalling the glasses with the Ed. You said Ed Kemper, the other detective.
Ed Kemper had glasses.
The other detective?
No, Ed Kemper's the serial killer that he spends all that time talking to in season 1.
Oh, okay. I was thinking
the one who killed his mom and then like tried to choke him out.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking the other detective. I can't remember. I can't remember the serial
little
killers.
picture of Ed Kemper here. Well, not really, because like they made him a lot fatter in the show.
Oh,
which I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Never mind. You don't look like Ed Kemper.
Yeah, not really.
No.
Jesus fucking
I was thinking
Christ,
of the wrong
John.
guy.
What? You do look like Danzig.
No, I don't.
Well, not in that picture where he's making a weird face because he's
the hair.
singing. It's the hair and the big head.
Look at the
he's
the
got a
picture.
Big head for his body.
Look at the picture of him walking out of the store holding all the cat litter.
Jason looks like the Mandarin.
Pedro Pascal?
No, the Mandarin, not the
Mandarin.
Mandalorian.
Okay,
Ben Kingsley? Is that his name? Kingston?
Are you talking about?
I don't know.
You're talking about from Iron Man?
The Mandarin.
I don't know.
The Mandarin hasn't been in a movie yet.
Yeah, he was.
Well,
the fake
no,
Mandarin.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that one, Iron Man 3's Mandarin.
I don't look anything like that.
Yeah, sure you do. Because
Like-
you're both bald.
Bald with a beard.
I mean, that's...
Yeah, all bald men look the same.
All bald men with beards look the same. You lose all defining features when you're a bald man with a beard. Like, you all look the same. And so you
true.
look like Ben Kingsley.
Okay, goddamn.
No, really, though, you do look a little bit like Ben Kingsley. His nose is bigger, but your facial structure is similar.
Yeah, I can see it a little bit.
Yeah, Brian, you look like Danzig.
But don't let that picture take you wrong. He's like 4 feet tall.
Now,
I'm going to say Danzig, he reminds me of what's his name? He's the scientist in Twister.
Now, if we're going back to Jesse, we got to go Ryan Hurst from Remember the Titans and Sons of Anarchy.
What's his name? Ryan Hurst.
Yeah, Ryan Hurst.
My old
looks a lot like Jesse, but if Jesse were like a foot taller.
My old platoon leader sergeant, he'd always be like, "Hey man," he'd always
Doesn't that look like you a little bit?
Yeah. He would
a little bit different nose.
I've heard that so many times.
Yeah,
but like he would always come up to me like, "Hey man, I'm really sorry they killed you off
like
in
here in
Sons of Anarchy."
Yeah,
I will say it's bullshit how he died.
Like him when he was younger.
Lady Killers. Have you seen him in Lady
Jesse
Killers?
right there. That right there's Jesse. Ryan Hurst.
I will say though,
when I do shave,
at the top of the episode, you said you would stay on topic for the next 4 weeks. You are not even.
Nothing I say is canon.
36 minutes into the first episode.
Nothing I say is canon. We know this.
Okay. Well, if we're trying to get back to topic, I'm going to go back with what I was saying.
Yeah, you
before
continue.
The break, which was I was watching football earlier, and football, sport, fun game, has its rules. Very obvious rules.
Yeah.
That are, here's the punishment for breaking this rule.
Yeah.
I think I watched like 2 minutes with my dad before I left the house.
Okay.
And I'm watching the Cowboys and the Giants.
Okay.
Play happens. Play ends. Flag comes out. It's like, oh, I missed the flag. What the fuck happened? I'm looking around like, okay, they're going to show it anyway. Turns out, New York receiver went down. Play ended. And as they're like turning around to walk back, this Cowboys like corner who's just walk, and then all of a sudden he just throws his helmet, just like headbutts the dude. No, this play's over. He headbutts him right in the face mask.
I think that really just is chalked up to the fact that professional sports have been pretty heated lately over the whole to kneel or not to kneel thing.
Not even that. Like, not even close to that. There was nothing to instigate this.
Really?
It was they ran the route, play ended, coming back, dude throws his head into the guy's face mask, guy falls, flag comes out, dude starts laughing. And then his coach is laughing. And it's like, why the fuck? Like,
the guy on the ground's laughing?
It doesn't sound
the guy who hit him.
The guy who hit him. And then the Cowboys coach is laughing, like, ha, ha, ha. It's like, you're looking at this going like, you're a professional fucking athlete, dude. You knew what that was going to do. I think the Giants were like 3rd and 12 or something when that flag came out, put them to first down. It's like, was that really worth getting a sucker punch in, essentially?
Sometimes,
and probably a $50,000 fine.
Yeah, probably.
That's what they do a lot in the NFL. Is like if you break a rule, they'll just fine you like real world.
But I mean, money.
But it was just it's like the consequences. People are looking, but you did it anyway, and then you laughed about it. It's like,
well, to be fair, he thought it was funny.
When you're making millions of dollars per game and you get a $50,000 fine,
whatever.
It's like, okay, it was fun.
He thought it was
worth
funny.
it.
Plus, I don't know that that's so much evil as
just the guy being
aggression
a dick.
And testosterone, adrenaline and testosterone,
toxic masculinity,
or just he's psyched up from just having ran a play. The guy's got a lot of excess energy.
The guy's probably just a dick. I mean,
it could just be because I was a dick when I played football. Like,
so
two
was
other
I.
Players like on the other
but
team.
You did,
of course.
But this was
the game.
It was such a blatant, just like dismissal of rule to just do this because. Like I'm not calling the guy evil by any means, but it was just like, did you just forget that this had negative repercussions for like 3 seconds and then go, oh, fuck, I got it?
No, it's fair. Back when I played football, like if we had to do a pass block where you just like pop up and, block them, I would always take that opportunity to punch the guy across from me in the stomach.
That doesn't hurt a defensive lineman.
Sometimes it does.
You hit him in the throat, John.
Sometimes it does.
Gut shot.
Yep. Well, because they don't see a gut shot, they see a throat shot. Because then you're risking a face mask.
Not with where you were.
But
no, you just
good punch to the gut was sometimes really fun because it did hurt somebody once. Then it wasn't funny anymore. It wasn't funny then.
And then you just felt like a dick.
Was
Yeah,
it
then I
door
felt
work?
like a dick. What?
Was it door work?
All I would do
No.
is just every play, I would smash my helmet into theirs so many, like, as hard as I could, every play to where third, fourth play comes around and they're just like, I don't want to do this
That's
anymore.
why you're so dumb now.
Yeah. Well, no. When
Just
you're
clash your head into
when you're
theirs.
the one
He should have been a
hitting,
Marine.
when you're the one
I know,
hitting,
when you
doesn't
deliver it
hurt.
rather than receive
Yeah.
it. Giving rather
But
than
like, you know,
receiving is
you're
always-
right, oh yeah. But then, you know, fourth, fifth play come around and they're just like, I don't want to do this anymore.
But anyway, so
I'm glad
Yeah.
you
Overall-
never had to go against me.
Overall,
You should
though,
thank your lucky stars.
I
for
wanna-
that.
to
I want to
guys
know
like
like
you.
what you guys think. Like, have you ever had that feeling, like in a place or around a person that just like that horrible dark feeling that like
Have you
this
ever been
is
approached
evil?
by a, like, not Jehovah's Witness, but like the kind of people that set up a table in like Indianapolis and they just forcibly come at you and you're like, okay, this is fucking weird, man.
Like Steven Crowder?
No. Like the religious guys
Oh,
in the white shirts that are just like, hey,
talking about-
it's like,
Are
okay,
you talking about Mormons?
I don't know if it's Mormons or
Dude, they're
Latter-day
so
Saints
nice.
or whatever.
Like Mormons, like
Well, you got to realize Brian fears human interaction.
yeah, but like they have to do like I think it's like 2 years of like missionary service, like as part of just growing up in the Mormon church, and so these guys they got to do it. You know, they have to do their duty. They go door to door and stuff, but like they're out there not necessarily to convert people, but to do service for the community. So like they're coming to your house and they're totally willing to like mow your yard or wash your floors or just come in and like play a board game with you.
Did you use
Like
them to
the
mow
way
your
I see it,
yard?
no, I've never done that. But like when I see it is when they come around, just be nice. Like they're just, you know, 18, 20-year-old kids that
Oh, I'm not talking about
they're
the,
probably scared going
I'm not
door
talking
to
about
door and
the
like,
young kids. I'm not talking about them. I guess the better one. Do you remember that? Were you there junior year, Travis?
yeah.
Okay. You remember that church group that came in and started
Oh,
berating?
Yeah, they were like fire and brimstone Baptists.
Yeah.
And,
And
yeah, they were strange. They were
Remember
I
what
think
they said to
kinda a little
Jack
bit
Deep and
Pentecostal.
Priya
Yeah,
about how
That was
since
not
they
cool.
were they're Indian Hindus,
they were Sikh.
they were Sikh, and you remember what they got told? Did Jack Deep ever? You were
Yeah, I know that whole story.
Yeah.
They came in there like yelling at them, telling them they were going to hell and everything.
yeah,
and, like,
in
that's
front of
not
the
cool.
lunchroom.
And
No.
that's one of those things though that gives people a bad opinion of religion and Christianity is psychos like that, because by any other standard, you ask any other church basically, they're gonna be like, that is not cool, that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about that. Those guys were nuts.
Oh yeah, and they didn't come off as nuts to begin with.
Yeah, we used to get those on the IUPUI campus, these like Pentecostal preachers that would like
Yes.
scream at everybody and tell everyone they were going to hell and start
Yeah,
calling
those-
everybody masturbators.
Yeah, those are the ones I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the
Those people
kids
give
or
me
the
bad vibes
missionary.
too.
But when I see them, and it's like, I know you're preaching, but it's like the moment you see something that's like, oh, this is outside of my like view, it's like, man, you are so quick to just
But-
start that hate mob.
Like for me, they don't give me like evil feelings. Like they just give me bad vibes. Like I'm like, you're a pretty bad guy. They're very misguided people. But I don't know. I don't know if you just know the feeling I'm talking about. It's like just a horrible sinking feeling that you'll get in a certain place or around a certain person. You just know there's no good there.
Talking about the bad juju
Or do you guys
vibes.
believe that evil exists at all?
Of course,
You know,
evil
that's kind of what I'm
exists.
getting at. Is like, what do you guys think about it? Because I think it definitely exists, and it has a pull that draws people towards it.
Yeah.
I'm more of the choice and consequences. Like, it is of a person's, like, they chose to do something evil that day.
Well, yeah,
Not
I'm not
anything,
saying
like,
that I'm not
really
taking any of
driving
the
them.
responsibility out of it.
Well, yeah.
I'm just saying that, like, there are things to me that are just evil, like that are beyond that person. Like they did it, or they do it, but it's a more evil act than a normal person is able to rationally get to. You know what I mean? Like there's a jump. So like a person can be evil in the sense that they do really bad things, that you can draw logical conclusions to how they got there. Like with a lot of serial killers, it's a combination of past trauma, mental issues. But then there's some actions, like the one I was talking about in California, that just doesn't make any sense at all. And it's probably way out of what that person would normally do. It's just something that like in that moment.
But is it? We don't know. Evil. We don't know their inner dialogue.
No, we don't.
Like Brian could have not hit the brakes and hit the accelerator.
But what if there's an intruder on their inner dialogue?
What, giving them?
We would never know.
Kicking in their inner dialogue door.
Well, that's where we get into the idea of like dark evil spirits and like demons and stuff. Like, what if you think this is your inner dialogue, but it's something intruding on your inner dialogue, and it drives you to do something completely unexplainable and evil that you wouldn't normally do?
I don't know. I think it's a momentary lapse in willpower. Like you have these inner dialogues already.
A lapse in willpower to fight the evil.
Or to fight your pre-existing urges. Like I said, like if Brian had not decided to hit the brakes, hit the accelerator instead.
But I feel like that says something too, though. If you're like, your base urges are pure evil, that also would say that like we all tend towards evil because it has a pull. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if we go back to base urges, then yeah, it would be.
Well, we know your base urges in episode 1 when you were like, well, why would they not just rape and kill everyone?
Yeah.
I was like, because that's not what people do. Like, that's not how we are.
It's not generally the first thought.
Yeah, they are. Like, no.
Yeah, your base urges.
I have to believe people are better than that.
Your lizard brain is survive, eat, procreate.
Okay.
At all costs.
That doesn't mean that you have to kill and rape to do either of those things.
Okay, so
you can
to survive
consensually. You can eat without killing.
No, but I'm not talking about our brains. I'm talking about at our basis level. We are eat, survive, procreate. To survive, you have to kill.
Yeah, we're talking about like base level, like primal stuff. I always go back to that scene in The Walking Dead where Rick bites that guy's throat out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like
that's a survive
the things that
thing.
we'll get to, you know, like if we're down to like animal survival instinct.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's hey, guess what? The humanity is going out. And it's like, oh, there's 2 people left. It's you and a girl. And the girl doesn't like you at all.
Well, then humanity's wiped out. That doesn't give you an excuse to rape. Like, license to rape. That's horrible. Like, because at that point, like, what does it matter that the species survives? You'll live still.
Okay,
let's live your life.
We're killing his only hopes at ever getting laid.
Is raping someone when they're the last 2 people on Earth?
That's
not horrible.
Nuclear holocaust the world, but I'm just saying, it's like, okay, let's make it different. It's settlements going under. Everybody's dying of disease. There's only so many people left.
Okay,
but we got to save the settlement. But we have to have more people to do that.
Okay.
So how do you make more people?
By procreating.
Yeah. But
you can do that consensually, though, because if everyone involved understands the need, it's likely that people will work together to do that.
Yeah,
people will willingly procreate.
What if some of them just don't want to with the person they've been given?
Yeah. Like, it's just the way I see it. There's just not...
Okay.
There's not a survival instinct that involves rape.
Then it comes to this. It's, all right, she said no. It's like, oh, she said no. Somebody looks at her and goes, doesn't matter. Do it anyway. And then that guy goes right along with it.
That is horrible because...
Plus, I would think you have a mass die-off. Your first instinct should be, what's causing this and how do we stop it?
Yeah, not let's make more people die off. The world is ending, let's fuck. Yeah.
No, I'm not talking like now. I'm talking back like 1700s when settlements would actively get murdered. And it's like, we're running out of fucking people.
Well, procreating won't stop murder.
No.
Right.
And...
Not murder,
it's
but
not
dying all.
It's not like you can hump one night and then have an army the next. I mean,
yeah, I know.
And if you're left alone, you could just move to another settlement, assuming you're still alive and able to procreate. Just move on.
Yeah, what if you can't? What if you're just stuck?
Plus,
what if it's the middle of winter?
These new settlers are not going to be... They're going to be babies. They're not going to help fight an infection. They're not going to
nobody helps
build
fight
fires. They're not going to help
basically,
hunt.
though, like...
I just hate this dark fantasy.
You're still... like basically at that point you're making more babies to also die because it's not like
Yeah, because how are you going to take care of a baby in these harsh winter conditions where you can't leave your settlement and
There's
everyone's
no
dying
food,
off?
everyone's dying.
And then you want to have a non-consensual rape baby with a woman who does not like you, who then has to take care of the baby that she didn't want. How is that going to be a good survival situation for anyone involved?
And then
how do you get the kid?
just
Fear
the likelihood
of repercussion.
This is the worst dark
weird.
fantasy that you have where you're like,
It's getting weird.
someday I'm going to be the last man alive.
No, I'd
There's
kill
going to be
myself.
one girl. She won't be allowed to say no.
We're going to have
You're
to cut
making me
the
sound-
entire end of the
You made
episode.
yourself sound really bad.
No, I did not. You're the one taking it.
You put off some wrong vibes in that. I know you didn't mean badly by it.
Okay,
got
should
a
I change it to a more appropriate? Let's say, eugenics has come out to be the most popular thing in the world.
Well, that's Jason's topic.
Yeah, I know. Guess what? We're going to breed these genes together. 2 people get thrown together, and you get told, got to do it. You got to have a kid within 6 months.
Well, if
Like
the
growing.
men came with their guns and were forcing 2 people, both non-consensually, then I don't know how you qualify that because they're both being forced into it.
well,
But who's going to give into it?
it's still like rape, but
I'd
the guy
imagine they both would eventually.
it's still rape,
If
but
it's
the
life or
guys
death.
doing it, it's like they're not at blame because they're also being
Forced
to
at
do
threat
something.
of death. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
different then.
It's 2 individuals
Direct
being raped by a
threat.
third party.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, that's
exactly,
it's a
exactly.
meta rape.
Yeah.
Wow, we just made a new term, meta rape.
Rape.
When you force 2 unwilling people to have sex with each other.
Well, this episode got real fucking weird.
Well,
at
it's
the
Not
end.
over
really.
anyway.
No, it's not.
It is.
We're talking about fucking evil. We can go on about this. It's like, what is evil? It's like,
Brian.
let's look at let's say, I guess the most popular for video, I should say, is what's evil?
2 girls, 1 cup.
No, it's 2 dudes. The video starts with 2 dudes like beat up, all bloodied up, and they're just sitting against this like rock wall, tied up, hands at their face, and then a dude with a chainsaw walks into frame and starts the chainsaw up, and just right into the throat of the first guy. It's a Mexican cartel execution video that I saw back in like middle school. And this dude just saw's going, blood flying out of the first guy. He clips the second guy's shoulder, who just doesn't like move or say anything, but the blade caught him.
See,
You were one of those faces of death addicts, weren't you?
No, he's onto something there though. You'll see some really evil stuff if you get into that. I knew a guy who was from El Salvador, and El Salvador is real overrun with cartel. And he would have videos just sent to him that were taken by family members of horrible, horrible things.
Dudes beheaded in the street,
Yeah, and
arms removed in the road
He came
or in the
here-
square.
He came here alone as a child with nothing to stay with a relative that was up here, and like all of his family's still back there. And so like I learned a lot of this because it was one year, it was around Christmas, and we were talking, and he hates Christmas because he knows that he was the only one able to make it here, and everyone at home has nothing. And when he grew up here, he was never able to have Christmas because they just had nothing. He got his first pair of shoes when he was 12. So like there's some seriously evil stuff going on down there with those cartels.
Mm-hmm.
And they're as far as it's like did they need to execute these people? And it's like, okay, maybe this person was just an innocent person. It's like there's no goodness in their intention there because they're using it to instill fear in somebody else.
Well, then
Yeah,
it's like,
that's like
what do they gain after doing that?
Nothing. And that's
It's like you
that's
gain
what's sick
nothing.
about it is like because there's some where they're not even executing people. They're just leaving them horribly disfigured and then just laying in the street to die slowly. He showed me one where they cut off all this guy's limbs and just left him laying in the street.
Yeah.
It's like there's
Bleeding
nothing
out.
that comes from that for you. Like,
Yeah.
So is this just the prison experiment cranked up to 100?
basically, yeah.
One person is willing to do these kind of things, and the rest of the members of the group are just
Yeah, I
This
think
is
that's
what we
it
do.
is.
just
Yeah,
pawns.
a little bit of that. It just kind of spread, and there was like one psycho, and then it all just went from there. That's just what they did now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's not normal human behavior
No.
by any means. Even if you are like a criminal force, like that's just not things that people
so.
do.
In your theory, there is a evil's pooling there like a fluid, right? It's like a pustule of evil,
Sure.
and it's just centered around these people, and it's causing them to do these things.
Not necessarily. It's like it's a
influencing them.
pustule that influences it. It pulls good away. Like I said, like a black hole that pulls goodness away and draws people toward itself. You know what I mean? Because if we go to what they're talking about with free will, people tend towards evil, but it's the goodness that keeps us away from it. So if we lose our goodness,
goodness
all we
as
have
a
left,
fuel, it keeps you from.
But it doesn't burn out.
Like, are you saying there's a balance?
Sort of, yeah. It's about balance.
And when the balance gets off, more than likely.
And that's the thing, is we all have evil in us, but we have to actively try to be good and do good to avoid falling into evil.
Right.
I mean, that's like the argument. It's kind of like what you were saying, where evil is a black hole, but instead of a black hole, evil can start as one person. Like, take a look at this year. Nobody advances on a store until that first brick is thrown, until the first guy goes through.
Right.
After that,
identity.
Everybody, it's free game.
That's just being sheep.
That is being bullshit. But that's why it makes me think that evil, it's always in us, no matter what.
Evil is the person who sets the pallet of bricks out and pays the person to throw the first brick.
All right, we're not getting into that.
That's where evil is.
That's irrelevant at this point.
Will they even still be using bricks, or will it be twisted tea?
Twisted tea's for everybody.
Oh man,
but
Twisted
that's irrelevant.
Teas are coming up.
It's irrelevant to my conversation.
Twisted tea's delicious, though.
I think I've only had it once.
God, you motherfucker!
It's really good. They have like multi-packs that have like peach tea, raspberry tea.
Ooh,
John, shut the fuck up.
Brian, have you seen that video?
Bust you with a can of Twisted Tea, Brian.
Okay. But no, like, it's not more a black hole as more of an infection that can spread over an area.
Like he was saying, like a pustule. It's just like...
I don't like the word pustule.
It's a great word when you're talking about infections.
No, because infections can spread everywhere, but they spread very little or a lot, depending on the person. Because an infection like that, where it's just the rules are gone, there is no consequence, that can spread very fast through a lot of people.
Yeah.
But then there are the people that it won't affect as much, and they'll be like, I don't know.
That's
how
what I said about like how some people tend towards evil more than others.
Yes.
Yeah, like
but
some people will avoid it even if it's there.
Seeing it more and more and more will eventually wear those people down to they were like, okay, fuck it, we're gonna move in on this, and it will just continue. Like you saw, like, oh, let's say somebody you knew, like you saw them, and it's like, oh man, what are they doing? Why are they there? They're never like this, but they've been around it for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's like, well, I finally decided. It's like, well, I mean, fuck it. I mean, nobody's really getting in trouble. I can
That's
finally...
the pull.
That's the pull.
Yeah.
Well, then how do you explain when it is a single individual in a neutral to good area that is one person just goes right off the reservation? Like
because
a housewife that loses their mind.
Starts one thing at a time. You know, they just start to, like I said, every winter, you know, you can sometimes get into darker stuff because everything is dead outside and like it's dark all the time. And so it's like going down a rabbit hole of your own psyche where you just start getting darker and darker and darker. And so that's how a single person can just pull themselves into evil. It's like, that's why being social is incredibly important. And it makes people better, generally. Like, well, that's why,
not in a prison experiment, because other people made them evil.
That was not social. That was isolation for some.
Well, those who were playing the prisoners, but the guards, they went back to a guard room.
But see, look at that, though, and look at the greater scale. We had all of these riots earlier this year, and people say that,
last year?
Last year, yeah. It wasn't just because of the events that happened. Yes, that would have caused riots, but it was definitely inflamed by the fact that people have been stuck in their homes, not going to work, not going places, and so that lack of social interaction made everyone just pop. I think social interaction is absolutely necessary for people to remain good.
Well, like, if I remember correctly, that first target that was hit, that started over the employees not willing to sell people who had been tear gassed milk.
Yeah, that was the target. But I just think that social interaction is a constant reminder that our actions affect others. And if you don't have that for a while, you start to forget
Empathy.
everything you do. Yeah, you lose empathy. You forget that everything you do will affect someone else. Because if you're just you and you're so focused on yourself, like, say, wintertime, you go in a dark hole, you just get depressed, you start thinking only about yourself, you tend not to think about other people much, you're not seeing people as much. Just like with a quarantine.
I'm kind of glad you guys work in an office with each other.
Why?
Because you see each other like every day.
I see you all the time.
You have to go out and like see. I mean, but I'm lucky because
if quarantine had happened through winter, I would not have come out of it great.
Yeah.
The fact that it was springtime and I just ignored it and had people over anyway, I was fine.
Yeah. Because I mean,
meanwhile, I started talking to my Roomba.
Yeah, you're talking to your Roomba after having just moved to a small apartment.
Yeah. I mean,
being stuck in it for 3 months.
I can see it in my dad because my sister, she graduated her first 4 years and now she's on to getting her bar and everything. Well, when she was there the first 4 years, shut up. When she was there, she would play basketball, and my dad would always, like, he was already working from home every day, all day. Dude wouldn't travel 800 yards in a week sometimes, but he would always have my sister to go watch basketball. So he would go to her games. That would get him out and get him, like, socialized, seeing the other parents, talking to the other girls, like, cheering on his daughter. And then as soon as she got done and moved up to Wisconsin to go do her law stuff, there's no more basketball. Like, my dad doesn't have a hobby, really. So it's like he will go from his upstairs office, where he sits in a chair all day and talks to people. Now, I think that's the saving grace for him, is that he has to talk to customers and technicians. Because I thought for a while that my dad was getting really depressed about being stuck in a house. And then, like, it was get out of bed, go to the office, go to the kitchen, feed the cats, back to the office for the rest of his day. Then he would come downstairs and sit in his chair and watch TV.
Yep.
Overall, 100 feet radius that he stayed inside of. Never once got out of it. And I think there was a segment for like 6 weeks where he just didn't go anywhere. Like, not even to the store, because it was, hey, nobody's really here right now. Just dad hanging out with himself and the cats. And we got worried about him for a minute in the quarantine because it's, well, the stores are closed, or they don't want people going out, and he's 65, diabetic, and heavy.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, he's really worried about it, and he only goes out if he really has to, which is like once a month at that point to get groceries. And it was like, that's when I was trying to convince him, like, you really need to, like, go out, because he started to, like, lose his temper a lot more in those 2 months.
Yeah.
And it was like, Dad, you got to go do something. This is, like, getting out of hand. You're, like, yelling at everything.
If you
Take
think
your
about
dad
it,
to the bar, have a drink with him.
yeah, really.
He doesn't drink.
Well, if you think about it,
And he doesn't want to go. He didn't want to go. Like, he didn't want to do anything. He was just like,
it's depression.
That's depression.
Social interaction is probably like the thing, you know, that keeps you out of evil. Because if you look at like a lot of people who have done evil things, like serial killers and things like that, they tend to, or school shooters, they tend to have social issues, whether it's a lack of friendships or they don't have genuine social interactions, like a sociopath who doesn't build genuine relationships with people. It's like being social is what keeps us good. It's what keeps us feeling empathy.
I had friends.
Social norms, the idea of the guilt of feeling like an outcast can bring people back into line with what society expects of them.
Anyway, on that
note, what note, John? We can take this. We have evil that I can explore. What is the evil of religion?
I mean, we have multiple episodes we can talk about different aspects.
I mean, there's an entire.
I just wanted to talk about the
there's an entire arc in Berserk that I could go into about religious evil.
Yeah, but I think we're at our longest episode ever right about now.
This like crazy priest or cardinal or whatever, dude.
All right, do I cut his mic?
No, but I think there's something to be said about evil in that we are probably at one of our longest episodes ever with very little source material.
Right.
Because it's just such an interesting concept.
And it's been,
so if you really dig into it,
it's been straight on topic the entire time.
Yeah, because evil is fucking interesting.
Look forward to Evil Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Someday in the future.
Yeah.
Known as The Void.
And on that note,
have fun, everybody.